Hello everybody, this is Nerd Zombie Goddess. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be drawing a pastel picture, and I told you I'm on a mushroom kick, so we're going to be drawing some mushrooms with pastels. And I'm going to be using the Derwent the Derwent pastel pencils, and also the Faber-Castell Pitt pastel pencils is what I'll be using. First, we have to draw our sketch. So that's what I'm going to get started with. And to do this, I'm going to show you, well, I'm not going to show you how to sketch, but sketch on a regular piece of paper. Don't do it on your pastel mat. This is great for pastels, and that's what we're going to be using today. You don't want to draw your sketch on the pastel mat because you will ruin it. And the pastels, you will never get rid of those graphite lines. So what we're going to do is draw a sketch, and then we're going to transfer it over very lightly to the pastel mat. So I'm going to draw our mushrooms first. I will provide a copy of this so you could pause it, and if you want to draw it also, and you can draw along with me if you got some pastels. Use this time to really nail down your sketch on your drawing paper. This is just the Strathmore. Okay, I think our sketch is done. So I want to show you, or what you should do, I'm not really going to show you this, but pick up your sketch and put it somewhere where it's across the room, where you can see it. And just kind of look at it and make sure drawing looks okay, nothing looks wonky. It's a really good idea to do because sometimes, depending on how you're working, things will become skewered. Take it, set it up, and go look at it. I'm going to go do that now. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we can transfer this drawing to our pastel mat. So here I have a set of pan pastels, and these are good for large areas, large coverage. They're very soft, powdery. Basically, we can flip this over. We're going to use this little sponge applicator. Adequate. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, and I'll show you, I taped down my paper underneath here, and there's already, you can see some pastel transferring. That's okay because it's easy to cover up. I taped it down really carefully, and now we're going to trace this, and it will transfer the drawing to the pastel mat. I'm trying to get a ballpoint pen here that works, and I'm using a ballpoint pen for this because you can also use a harder pencil, but I don't want to risk using too hard of a pencil and digging into the paper and leaving a mark. Now, the tricky thing here is to try to avoid laying your hands on areas. So I'm going to do my best to not lay my hand on this. It's easier said than done. If you do kind of put it in one of these spots where you know you're going to color, and we could check this as we go to make sure it's transferring. It doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. Now, of course, like I said, there's some chunks of pastel that deposited here because when I was laying the paper down, I wasn't more careful. I haven't done this in a while, and I forget how careful you have to be. But anyway, hopefully you may not even be able to see this on camera. It's a very light yellow, like a yellow beige. I'm gonna try, what you can do is take your kneaded eraser. I'm gonna try to get some of this up. I'm not gonna rub the paper. I'm just dabbing to get some of that pastel off. And I lost a couple of my lines, but that's okay. I'll be able to find it. I just need some guides to start filling it in, pulling the excess off, the powder that's sitting. So all of this we can cover up, so I'm not too worried about it. All right, next step. All right, so now we're gonna start laying down the pastels. And if I didn't make it clear before, this paper I'm using is very coarse. Well, it's like fine sandpaper, and it's perfect for pastels. It'll hold the pastel on the paper, and you can do a lot of layers. So that's why we're using that. You can use pastels on smoother paper, but I don't recommend it because you don't have, it's like colored pencil. You run out of tooth very quickly, and then what? You're in trouble. You can't add more layers. So we're gonna start with just laying down some simple layers of color. We're not gonna get too crazy yet. We're just trying to get a feel. Keeping where my lines are, that's gonna be. You don't want to make your first initial layers too thick because you don't want to, eat up all the tooth of the paper. This is just a base color I'm starting with. And I could also have used the pan pastels, or I also have soft pastels, but I'm too lazy to dig them out right now. Those would work good for the larger areas. I'm basically just gonna lay down a base color for the mushrooms, just so we can have a guideline where to go, and you guys can see it a little better on the camera. There, now you can at least see the makings of a picture and see the lines as we go. I just wanted to make sure that was a little more clear. Now I'm starting to add some yellow in here. There's a lovely orange going on in the reference photo that I want to try to capture. We'll see how that goes. I've been using these Derwent ones because I've used the Pitt pastel before, and I wanted to give the Derwents, I had literally just opened these right before I started this video, the Derwents. So I wanted to use them as much as I could, and then any colors I might need different, I can pull from the Pitt pastel. I already know I like those, but I wanted to give these a shot. I think these are probably a little bit harder, maybe. Hopefully that won't cause a problem, but trying to get enough pigment down so I can blend. If you have trouble, eventually I'm gonna have trouble. If you have trouble not putting your hand in your pastels, you can get a sheet of tracing paper or something like that to set down so you can set your hand on it. Just make sure you're not sliding the paper around too much with your hand, as that will also smudge and smear pastels. But it will help, and eventually I'll get to a point that I'll use that too to keep my hand out of it. The Pastelmat in color, like a color, I have a bunch of different ones, you know, anywhere from blue to gray to browns, yellows, reds, but there's some white in there, and I was like, you know, I don't know when I'm ever going to use this, so I'm just going to use it today so it gets used up. Because typically the whole reason you buy the colored, you know, paper is to kind of cut down on having to put so much pigment down, and that background paper color will start to blend, you know, nicely with the colored pencils. So, but we're not going to get that today. Just like with colored pencils, you can use colored paper too, and it'll cut down on some of the work you have to put in as far as getting pigment down. It depends on the color and what you're going for too, obviously, but I'm just using this, I forget what these things are called, but it's a nice blending tool for the larger area, so I don't have to get in there and blend so much with a stump. Blends super nice. And then for the edges we can't reach, we use a blending stump. And you can also use what I was putting the pan pastels on as a blender. There's many things you can use as a blender, or cotton swab. I'm just gonna get these edges. This paper can take a lot of abuse. You can also use this paper with colored pencils, and you can also use solvent with the colored pencils on this paper, as long as you don't soak it too much. Pretty durable. Blending stump works really well though. It pushes that pigment around pretty nicely. Smooths it all out. You can kind of use your pinky. If you're not used to doing this, it's a good way. You just kind of rest your hand on your pinky off on this taped area where I'm not gonna drag color, you know, around, and then I can steady my hand enough. You can do this with graphite drawing too. There we go, in there. And then if we go into a new color, all you have to do is take one of these little sanding blocks and you rub it over a trash can, and you can shape this back into a point and it'll take the color right off. Hopefully you can see that it took the color back off, and then we can use it for the yellow next time, or another area, which I might go ahead and blend this. Just going in with some yellow again. This is process yellow. And unless you're doing a detailed area, you don't have to worry about keeping a point on these like you do colored pencils. I'm doing broad areas right now, so I'm not so worried about having a point because I'm not doing details yet. And we're going in with a darker red. This is called crimson. Hopefully you can see how nicely that's starting to blend. Of course, we'll keep adding more layers. But this tool here I got off of Amazon, and it's got a soft spongy material on this side, and this side's a lot harder. I'm gonna use this probably for oil pastels, but the soft side, and I have these in different sizes, the soft side works great for the pastels. And these are very cheap on Amazon. I think I got a giant pack of blenders, and it had a whole bunch of different kinds of blenders, and it was like $5 or $6. I know it wasn't more than $8, but I've seen them also on AliExpress. Pretty much everywhere has something, a version of them. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm going to go in with a little bit of this forest green. I'm not going to use a lot of it yet. Actually, I might. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use the green oxide because it's a little more neutral, and I want to keep this neutral back here for the shadow. I'm not going to use a ton of it yet. We're just going to go in and start defining the 3 dimensions of this mushroom. You can see that makes it nice, starts to get a little bit of a rounding effect there, and we'll just keep gradually building that up a little bit around the edge. I don't want to overpower the red. I just want to darken it and make it look like it's a shadow. So we don't want to get too crazy with this yet. Okay guys, we're going to end part 1 here of our tutorial. Subscribe so you don't miss part 2, and thanks for watching. Bye!